Okay, so yeah, my name is Chad Marin, and I've actually been following Spatial for a couple years now. It's been one of those. I've been doing VR for quite a while, and when I saw, and you guys obviously didn't start in VR, you were doing augmented reality, and I tested it then, and then when you started doing VR, I was like, oh, this is really great. And Christine, she's the curator at the Leepa-Rattner Museum of Art, and a lot of times we work at the same institution, St. Petersburg College. And a lot of times she'll reach out to me and says, I got this exhibit coming up. I want to do something innovative and engaging. What can we do? And so we've worked together a few times. And then I don't know, was it 6 months ago or so? She's like, I want you to meet Louis Markoya. And I was like, okay, this is great. So we met at his studio and in St. Petersburg, Florida. We walked in, and I was immediately blown away. And I'll be honest, I haven't been blown away in a while. And to see his art jump off the canvas without any special needs of wearing glasses or anything, it just blew me away. And we figured out a way to take the 3D film, the stereoscopic, make it anaglyph, so then we could use the traditional 3D glasses and watch it that way. And then we actually put it in VR. Then the next thing was, wow, this art is pretty incredible. I mean, it would look good in a spatial gallery. So Lewis gave me all his art, not all of it, but some of it, and I put it in here. And as you can see, there's quite a bit. And this one here, I'm sure Lewis will talk more about it, but the virus, I mean, when you're in this space, it just jumps off the canvas, and it's beautiful. So VR, I think, is the perfect place for this type of gallery.
Myself. I'm an artist that became interested in 3D back in the 70s when I was working with Salvador Dali, and he was very interested in creating 3D on a 2D surface. And he had felt that since the Renaissance, artists have been trying to do that through classical means by using perspective and doing painting shadows and being able to be good draftsmen. So that only gets you so far to look 3D. So he was trying other things. He first tried some plastics that had a little bit of relief in them, and they looked like they were maybe an inch deep or something like that. And that company happened to be in Connecticut, and I lived in Connecticut, so I became the representative for him to that company and made many trips there. And although he had already had the material for years, he used me to try to do research with the material to see if it could make it look deeper than it actually did appeared by itself. He went on from that to making stereoscopic paintings when he found that there was a painter named Gerard Dow that is a Dutch painter, 18th, 19th century Dutch painter that had made some stereo pairs using a camera obscura to do left and right eye perspective paintings, and it's still unclear as to how he converged them. But Dali did that using made left and right eye versions of paintings using stereo cameras and by using computer generated stereo pairs and combining them in the canvas with traditional techniques of drawing the picture, the photograph to the canvas with pinholes and actually then drawing those outlines on the canvas and converging the two with two front surface mirrors that would form a three-dimensional W with the left and right eye perspective works on the ends of the W and the V in the center being front surface mirrors that you had to put your nose up to and that your nose separated the left and right image for your brain up against the mirror and then converged it. But this became like really difficult because not only did people not know what they needed to do, um, they when they did it, they would bump the mirror so much they would misalign the whole thing, and then 3D actual 3D was
Hmm.
impossible in the end. So it was a really difficult proposition. I when I stopped working with Dolly, I stopped doing art for a long time. But I picked up technology and computers in the early '80s with Atari and Amiga computers, and started doing a lot of 3D work with them. And dropped it after a few years and really like getting a good feel for it. And in 2012, I found the advent of the three-dimensional fractal online, and I also found in Times Square a lenticular print of Spider-Man that looked really remarkable and holographic in full color. So I thought that this is where Dalí really wanted to head, and I started contacting lenticular companies. It started as a painting, and to make it into lenticular, all I did is separate out the background ground, the virus figure, and the other figure on different layers in Photoshop. And it used to be a lot more painful years ago, but now the companies know me well enough and know my art and know what fractals are well enough that they know to put the dimension in almost so exactly what I expect when when they do it. So they send me an animated GIF after they do the 3D conversion to see if it's correct, and
Mhm.
then I could at that point. Oh, okay. You have one that's a GIF. Okay, great. It's behind me in my viewing. So that would be more or less what the Chinese company would send to me to okay. And if I say, yeah, it all looks good to me, or if I say I want this fish behind instead of in front, they'll do that. And when I give them the okay, they'll commit to printing the film and then having it mounted to the lenticular lens. Lenticular printing has, and the lens material has progressed enough that behind each little tiny stripe of the lenticular lens that runs from the top of the bottom to the of the picture, there could actually be 15 pairs of left and right eye information that form the contour, that actually form a detailed depth map. I was doing experiments with projecting volumetric textures onto figures. And this figure came up, and to me, it represented the virus because I thought the news was kind of getting it wrong, showing the virus as the little molecule with the red dots around it,
Mhm.
because people don't really know how to relate to that. And I wanted people to realize, first of all, that the virus was being spread by your mother's father, children, aunts, uncles, neighbors, people around you. So I wanted to give it a human form. And the human form, I wanted to project that uh, in nature, poisonous animals are normally very brightly colored to warn other people, warn other animals that they are poisonous. So that's why I wanted the virus to have a brightly colored fractal to texture it. And had all the storm clouds in the background to show that this was a really large event that was coming,
Mm.
and the second figure to be staying away from it. So I did the virus first picture, and I don't know if the other follow-up pictures are here.
They're behind you.
Oh, they are. They are behind me. Um, so the second on the left is after the virus, even though we're not after the virus. I painted the second piece of the story arc to be after the virus, where the figures are deeply scarred. And I thought that all of us in humanity would be scarred in some way by the virus, that we'd either had lost a loved one or someone that we know, or
Hmm.
lost a job, been affected financially, or somehow been affected, so that the virus somehow affected us all. And that people's scars would be more or less defined, but they should look at the fact that we're all made of the same finite amount of elements, that the virus didn't care about our skin color or our religion or our politics or our borders. The virus was everywhere and affected everyone. And that
Wow.
and
Oh,
to
that's
I
make it
think
beautiful.
it's
to make it
beautiful
more
message and gorgeous piece.
yeah, to make it more visible that we are stardust, I wanted to put the Milky Way in the background. For this
Um,
painting, I wanted to show that thoughts are are like fluid and they extend beyond the cranium. So that's basically the mindset of
mhm.
that painting. That thoughts are extend beyond the walls of your cranium. That they were outside, and I think that that's why in some cases people that are close have similar thoughts at the same time or come up with the same ideas. I do studies with three-dimensional fractal software or Cinema 4D or other
Mhm.
pieces of software. Part of what I wanted to do with my work was I thought that people have largely become jaded with how much uh, television and movies have brought really incredible special effects to everybody, and everybody is numb to it. I mean, every
Mhm.
little so
Love that.
that's where I wanted to tie technology into classical painting.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic that I'd love your perspective on because we do, as a 3D software, we have a lot of people that are, building everything from small models to entire environments
Sure.
um in these types of softwares. And what do you think that means for, for the art world, for artistic expression, for traditional artists?
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's places that I've been in the world that I'd either like to go back or that I'd like other people to see because I think that those places have affected me artistically in how I think. I think if I could go into the Sagrada Familia instead of having to go to Barcelona, if I could go into it and experience it here, it, and have it realistic,
Hmm.
it could be a life-changing experience for people. Art and architecture are things that should change and affect people. So I think it's very valuable in that aspect. So I would love to have things like that, like St. Peter's or all the Gaudi architecture and those things done that you could walk around in, and especially for people that don't have the means to actually be there, and especially in the pandemic.
Absolutely. And I mean, we're
Yeah.
experiencing that a little bit in the artists right now, is in terms of people being able to create their own galleries that otherwise would not have a gallery or an institution, hosting their gallery, but
Right.
are creating, virtual galleries all on their own,
Mm-hmm.
and are able to, promote their work. So there's definitely a lot of an opportunity that exists in a virtual world that isn't, yeah, outside of, the norms that would exist, without that. So like the limitations of space don't exist.
Right. So
Hmm.
the thing that as an artist I would want to like explore is how realistic could it be? Is a lot of art is how the viewer is affected by the artist, and is it engaging enough to make them feel like they're part of that reality that's in front of them, that piece of art. So it would be important for me to know what kind of resolution and how clearly you could see that.
Like right now, the memory usage in this room, you've got texture memory used. We've used 147 megabytes, I think, but we've got, I don't think you guys can see what I'm looking at, but we've got a lot of free space in here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, and I started bringing in
Well,
some of the animated GIFs, and those require a little bit more space memory wise.
yeah.
We have people that will bring in full rooms. We have, you can bring in animated 3D models, um, or any type of 3D model. And so that's kind of what I was getting at, kind of asking you, is the the message of like the medium you're using with oil paintings,
Mm-hmm.
like part of your work, or would you ever consider bringing that in, because you could create it in, like Cinema 4D and just bring it in as a model? Is that something that
Mm-hmm.
you would ever consider, or would that be contrary to what you're trying to evoke?
No, no, there's both sides of the story. So one of the things that I'm going to work on um, soon is almost all of the lenticulars that I've done have all started out as oil paintings, and none of them like took into account what actually works or doesn't work in a lenticular print, or what makes a good lenticular print or not. I just made them and decided somewhere along the line that I would try to make it into 3D. And the next, I'm going to do a couple that have nothing to do with painting, that I'll concentrate on trying to maximize the 3D effect. And probably all of that will be done inside of either the fractal programs or Cinema 4D,
Can't wait to
and just
see
Yeah,
skip the
those.
oil painting part.
me
Yeah.
too.
It's gonna be amazing.
Yes, and let us know. I mean, if you want to get any of these works in, with that same, and try to match the dynamic, or the
Mhm.
visual quality that you can get with the lenticulars. That would be an
Uh-huh.
interesting challenge to pose to our team.
Sure.
So,
Where are
Yeah.
you as a company? Where are you physically?
well, our headquarters is in New York. We also have an office in San Francisco, but we do have a pretty dispersed team. We have some people that are all over the country, different parts of the world. Stephanie's in Japan right now.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Good for
yeah.
you.
Well, being a remote collaboration software does help with remote work.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. I remember when I first started
let's
testing Spatial, I had when it was augmented reality, I had in my living room, I guess you could say, I had about 15 different people from all over the globe. It was such an amazing thing. And then I remember when I would walk by somebody, I felt like they were in the room with me, and I would be like, "Oh, excuse me, go ahead, walk by." And I'm like, "Oh, wait, you're not in the room with me." It takes a while to get used to that
Yeah.
presence, that
Yeah.
presence concept.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that Spatial being cross-platform, being able to work with AR and VR, and we now have people that you can just join from the web, you can join from your phone, so it's really accessible, and we're really working on trying to make these types of 3D experiences um, that bring people together from all over the world, just more
Mm-hmm.
more simple, normalized.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I have been eyeing these pieces over here, and I would love to hear a little bit about them because they are just so beautiful.
In the back here?
And yeah, and I read a little bit about how you use a lot of math and fractals, and I'd love to hear kind of where that inspiration comes from, or like where that interest in using fractals comes from.
Well, I had an interest. I had an interest in fractals when they appeared on the scene in the like 70s. When Benoit Mandelbrot discovered them at IBM when he was working there, and I didn't see them. I saw them as like purely ornamental at the time. Is they are inspired from reading Nietzsche and reading reading about what he called the Ubermensch, the people with super brain powers and that were a little bit beyond normal people.
Yeah, this is an
Yeah.
experiment that this is one of Lewis's paintings. I don't even remember the name of it actually. But so it's
Let's go
technically
inside it.
considered a skybox. Yeah, it's kind of a neat. I'm still trying to figure out how to get the 360 to be correct. Like right there, you can see kind of like a
Yeah.
portal almost, like a little point of light. Um, but I figured it'd be kind of neat to figure out a way to be completely immersed in a painting. And this is where when Lewis mentioned the texture of a painting, this would be kind of neat to be able to almost feel it, like to
Yeah.
see what the texture's like.
Do you
So I'm
have
still
this room
learning.
saved as a template?
I don't think I do. I probably should,
Okay.
huh?
Because we can go set this as a skybox if you want. Just
Oh,
save
the
this as
whole
a
room?
template first, and then I'm gonna do something crazy.
Okay. Oh,
Oh,
weird.
cool.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
The thing that I would want to try with this, and because it's a painting and it's 2D, it doesn't have it. It would be nice if the structures, like the bone-like structures out here, actually had 3 dimensions. That would be like really pretty cool.
That would.
Right.
But
And
And I'm
well,
just
you
to
could
answer
weird.
also
your
make
question,
the floor
to,
too.
to answer
Oh,
your
yeah.
question, Chad, I probably have higher resolution than you had, but I just this week bought a 61 megapixel Sony camera, so I'll have very high resolution pictures of stuff
Okay.
soon.
Yeah, we could. I definitely would love to experiment with that. 'Cause I think that would look amazing in here with higher resolution.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. This is really cool. I like this.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, do we want to go jump into the Leepa-Rattner Museum? Just
Yeah. Yeah. This would be a perfect time for Christine to kind of talk about how she could possibly use it for future shows too.
what is your intention behind building this out?
The pandemic obviously had kind of spurred a lot of museums to embrace technology a little bit faster than they would have otherwise. And we were so lucky to have people on staff at the college to collaborate with, including Chad and Rick. And we have scholars all over the world and people who want to study certain works at the museum with our permanent collection. Um, and it's helpful for us too to have this not only for educational purposes, but I think also for future planning, like Chad was saying, where we could, essentially, like right now, we've got our 20th anniversary next year and masterworks that we're going to be putting out. And to have this 3D model to really plan every detail for our exhibition installation is massive. That's like a huge help. But,
Hmm.
as far as connecting with people all over the world and sharing we do have award-winning architecture. It was part of the top 100 buildings in Architectural Digest, I think back in 2002 when we first opened. Um, so it's really sharing the architecture of the space and the art within it with people all over, and also engaging on a different platform and engaging the youth, which
Hmm.
is really important on being on a college campus too. But
Absolutely.
it's great to see how accurate it is building, so we don't have this beautiful mountainscape to
Mhm.
look at. But it's kind of nice to be transported, to have our home transported into another world. Oh, where am I going? There.
I
Sorry,
I just
turned
came in
around.
over here. So- Sorry, I'm rushing ahead of you. Um,
Yeah, no, this even though we don't have it completely built out, this is our permanent collection galleries. And what's great is that it's actually pretty accurate. And even this, so you see this sculpture in the middle here. This is a bronze sculpture by the artist Henry Moore, he's a very famous sculptor. Um, but I mean, it looks like you could almost reach out and touch it, which is really great. And the accuracy of the color and the finishes
mhm.
in the bronze and with all the artwork is really amazing. It's like you're standing in the gallery. It really is.
It really does feel exactly like being in a gallery. Like the scale is like perfect, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Our collections manager is um, I'm not so technologically savvy, but she's on me to learn this so we can actually use it for planning purposes as soon as
Hmm.
possible. Museums really have been experiencing kind of a paradigm shift in the past few years, as a lot of museum supporters are starting to age out, and uh, it doesn't matter what size you are. It could be the Metropolitan Museum of Art, or it could be our little museum here in Florida. We're all kind of wondering what the future holds for museums, because we really have to think beyond the walls and the vaults, and
Yeah.
get the message out there and get the younger audience to get engaged. And so this is the perfect opportunity, especially when it's kind of got the feel of a game, or something that you would experience with other people in virtual reality, as a I don't know, Minecraft or something like that.
Hmm.
It's a great way to connect with
It is, and
other people.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you said that, because a lot of people think that VR is this social. You're like isolated from everybody, and you kind of are
Yeah.
in a way, but in this case, we're not. We're social and we're hanging out and we're chatting
Right.
in this museum, and it's really a great potential of VR. I think is the social aspect. So yeah,
Yeah.
I
I'm by
was really
myself in my apartment
excited.
right now, but I'm hanging out with you.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Well, and doing educational programs with PowerPoints and Zoom is all well
Hmm.
and good, but it doesn't replace that sort of that human interaction that you have when you think you're talking to someone in a space. And even just being in the other gallery with Lewis, and as he was talking about his work, it felt like we were in the middle of a gallery tour, like we were all
Yeah.
there. So it's it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I hope we can do more of that, to really engage people. And this is kind of the perfect way to be able to spend as much time as you want in a space and really digest it and pick up on all those nuances that you couldn't any other way except for being at the museum. This is
Right.
really cool.
Yeah, it is.
And
I'm
I
gonna go
love
around the
that you
corner
can.
here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, the colors separate. I don't know what it is, but the paintings look three-dimensional, kind of like Lewis's work. Have you guys noticed that?
They do.
So they're pictures, right? They're
Yeah,
pictures
they're
of they took them on the wall.
yes, they're actually just oil paintings, except for
Mhm.
this one that's in front of you. That's a stained glass light box.
Right.
Um, but it's interesting. Like if you look at this really big painting on the wall behind Chad,
Mhm.
um, it looks like you should be
Hmm.
wearing those anaglyph 3D glasses or something.
Yeah,
That I mean, it looks three-dimensional. That's crazy.
Mhm.
it does.
I think that the possibilities are really endless, so I'm excited um, to to see where you are now, and I'll be excited to see where it all goes.
Definitely. One thing
Oh,
I've noticed when you meet somebody in here for the first time, so like Christine and Lewis meeting you, Bree, for the first time, for example,
Mhm.
we're seeing you as a virtual avatar. But then, like when I send you Lewis's video later, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I know him. It's interesting
Yeah.
yeah.
how the brain does that.
We've been playing with this idea. Some people, especially in the NFT community, they want to, there's like this anonymity around it, or like this
Hmm.
character and facade that's like their artist personality, um, that they don't want to have it be their real face and name. So we're playing
Mm.
around with that. But I think that, as much as that's something we definitely will enable, there is something really cool about, this, like being able to recognize you and seeing a human face. So
Mhm.
Yeah, that looks so cool. That background looks neat.
that's cool.
That's funny.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing
Thank
your
you.
sharing
Thank
your
you.
work with us.
Yay!
Great
Yay!
seeing you.
That's awesome.